Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we are going to be going over some deck options for the upcoming Mythic Invitational Qualifier play-in tournament. This is a best-of-one qualifier play-in for the Alchemy format this month. It will take place. If you do well, you get your number of wins. You get to play in the best-of-3 tournament the following week. There'll also be a best-of-3 qualifier the following week as well. From there, if you do well, you can qualify for the Arena Championship, kind of higher stakes Magic. Alchemy Best of One as a format is not very popular, just Alchemy in general. From December 29th through January 5th, what we see on the screen from Untapped GG, we only have 12,000 matches played, or games played in Mythic, Platinum to Mythic. Standard's a lot higher, the other formats, so we don't have a large sample size to go off of. I've played the format quite a bit. One of my favorite decks is in the format, so can offer some insights there, but really this is kind of just to get you a feeler, see what options there are. There might be kind of some undiscovered decks that come out from it, but these are kind of your go-to. And looking at it, the top deck from Untapped data is Rakdos Sacrifice, kind of Rakdos midrange. And the most recent Alchemy set brought us Crucius, Titan of Waves, 3 mana, 3/3 pirate, where basically you can untap, or at the end step, you could discard a card and you choose basically you want something with higher or lower CMC. So it kind of lets you sort through your deck and find the best card. By the way, I'll post all these deck lists in the video description if you want to copy them. And then it gives you a treasure as well. So it helps you, for example, you can discard a Shieldred that you have extras of and find an Invoke Despair, or any of your kind of extra stuff, whatever you don't need, if you need removal, stuff like that kind of coming in. Also helps you ramp, so you can go turn 3 this, turn 4 Invoke Despair, which is pretty good. This is otherwise kind of the Rakdos deck we see in a lot of formats: Shieldred, Fable the Mirror Breaker, Invoke Despair, Bloodtithe Harvester. Alchemy, because of Baldur's Gate, still has access to Deadly Dispute and Shambling Ghast. You also have access to Curse-Bond Witch, which is an early blocker that lets you draft from a spell book. You can get Cat Oven, you can get a bunch of kind of like witch themed cards, and it's just kind of a 2-for-1 kind of card advantage. Go for the Throat as removal. Meathook Massacre is nerfed in this format, so you don't gain life on your opponent's creatures dying, but it still does the drain. You have Obnixis Liliana in this version, and then Forsaken Crossroads is the line that's kind of hovered out here. I don't think Liliana is great in this format. There's a lot of aggro decks that go wide, so it doesn't really do too much. I'd honestly probably just cut this and play the full Deadly Dispute package, or do like another Deadly Dispute, Meathook Massacre. Meathook Massacre is very good against the mono red deck. They have a lot of X1s and X2s, so even like turn 3, 4, it's a very effective sweeper. You also get a lot of treasures in this deck, so ramping up. Another card you might want to consider if you want to be more interactive is Molten Impact. It's often a 2-for-1 in these Rakdos shells. The next deck, and I don't know why it's being silly today. It is Naya Cabaretti Revels, which is at 61%. Don't know why it's being... I want the big view. Let me see if I refresh. Okay, well, being silly, so we'll go this way here. So with this deck here, you're looking to still play, no matter how many times they try to do stuff to Revels, it's still being played. So what you're trying to do with this, it's a life gain value deck. So there's a number, like Luminarch Veteran can always be found off casting a 2-drop. So your 2-drops are like Voice of the Blessed, Trelasara, Prosperous Innkeeper, so they help you find your Luminarchs, which then get you a whole bunch of life. Your 3-drops are like Brutal Cathar, Welcoming Vampire for card advantage, Adeline, and then Inquisitor Captain can help find pieces as well. So it's one of those decks that it's a little slow to get going. You're usually doing setup the first few turns, and then once, especially if you get Revels on 3, then you kind of go nuts and you just build a really big board with that there. So if you kind of like those, like go wide in a way, go tall, gain a bunch of life decks, then this one's for you. Now, mono red aggro, there's 2 lists. I'm going to be biased towards my list, but so this is the list. There's basically if you're on Thundering Raiju or if you're not on Thundering Raiju. One thing, just regardless of list, play Molten Impact as your 2 mana 4 damage spell. Don't play Mephits, Enthusiasm. Mephits gives you extra power, but you're just playing all in. There's a lot of, even in these red decks, a lot of removal. So you're just kind of doubling down and going all in. Molten Impact oftentimes is two like removal spells in one. So it's a really efficient rate. It helps in the creature mirrors, helps scale up for you in red to be able to deal those additional points of damage to Shieldred as well. So this version here is going to be on Bloodthirsty Adversary to flash back. You have basically your Play with Fires, Molten Impacts, Traumatic Pranks as your spells. This version here, you also have Tiefling Outcast, Big Spender, Kumano, and Phoenix Chick, which are pretty customary. Ambergris is your card advantage, and Raiju's the top end. Now, I don't like Raiju in the current meta. It trades with a lot of the 2-drops in the format. Like if they go Kumano into like a Big Spender, Bloodthirsty, Bloodtithe Harvester, Tenacious Underdog if you run into it. It's also a 4-drop for 3/3. It gets stopped by Shieldred pretty hard. It also, these decks are playing it. They're playing a 4-drop with 22 lands. So at times you kind of get stuck at 3 lands in this deck. I've won multiple games with just 2 lands. And this usually just kind of sits around in your hand. It's a little bit awkward with Ambergris from sequencing. So that's my thoughts there. So this is my list. I'm 188 and 76. Now, folks are doing worse on average with my list. If we look at the actual performance, they are at 55% win rate for 60. I've peaked as high as 77% win rate on this deck. I'm almost 300 games in with this one. And my kind of consideration is lower to the curve. So we top out at Ambergris Traumatic Prank. We played none of the 4-drops. I'm on the Swiftsphere early package. And then I've recently made the change. I've cut one Phoenix Chick in lieu of... Weird that it's not picking up. Okay, so I'll update that. So we have the Squee in here. Okay, now it's picking it up. Go to this version. You go to this version? Cool. Sorry. You can see all my versions here, but I went Squee over the extra Phoenix Chick. There's been an increase in the number of these Rakdos decks that play Meathook Massacre. Phoenix Chick usually means you play more into it. And Phoenix Chick is usually the worst of your 1-drop options between Swiftspear, Kumano, and Tiefling Outcast. The Squee is a must-answer threat on its own, could provide multiple bodies, and is a recurable thing out of the graveyard. So in these grindier matchups, you could get some value out of it. It also lets you keep putting pressure on without having to overcommit to the board into more of the removal options. So I've liked that. I was on 2 Mishra's Foundries. I've cut it down to 1 and just gone up to the mountain. I was getting instances where I'd have just like a mountain and Mishra's, and with multiple red drops, I was getting screwed over more than that. This deck's been a little weird for me just the last couple of days. You can see you go through kind of like stretches. So I went like 6 and 5 here, but like I've had stretches where I've gone like 23-9, 15-2, like just really hard, like really winning scores, 13-1, 89-39. So you will kind of get some ebbs and flows with this deck. It's sequencing comes into play a lot. I have a gameplay of this, kind of going through everything, showing how it's played. This one is less... Your sequencing, I think, matters more in this one because you're playing lower curve. You can kill really quick. Like, I've had multiple turn 3 kills. Like, double Tiefling in your opener at times just runs over people if they have no answer. I still think this is the best deck in the format. And you can kind of adjust it as needed to deal with these Rakdos decks. But even with this, against Rakdos, I'm 17 and 8. I'm mono red. I have a very high win rate. In addition, because like I have Lightning Strike, Molten Impact, and Play with Fire, so you're good in the creature mirrors. Kind of play with that. Mono black, I have a high win rate. The toughest decks are enchantments, which I still have a positive win rate. And then Cabaret Revels is a tough matchup at 3 and 4. Some of these like green-white matchups are also the Revels matchups where they just didn't play a red card. But you kind of have to time it, so you always have to kill their life gainers, or you have to time it so if they go Bishop, or Voice of the Blessed, you got to time it with the trigger on the stack to kill it before it gets bigger, or just try to hold your Traumatic Pranks to be able to kind of take it and kill it there. The last deck is mono black. What are they calling this? Control, mid-range. Honestly, this is probably just worse Rakdos at this point. There's better cards in Rakdos. The Drains deck with like all the cheap creatures, your Meat Hooks, and your Xander's Wake is probably a better option, to be honest. Like I said, I really don't think Liliana is well suited in this format. You can see a lot of the decks kind of dump their hand early. Like even the Sacrifice deck can do that. But you have a lot of those same elements: Sheoldred, Tenacious Underdog, Invoke Despair in there, Sorens, kind of playing with that. But your cut down, Infernal Grasp first off should be go for the throat. You can't afford to be taking 2 damage from your removal spells in this format. You're just going to get run over by these creature decks that kind of pile on. But that's it for the week. If you have another cool list or ideas, stuff like that, like I said, there's not too much options. You're pretty much, I would say your safest bets are, depending on your playstyle, Rakdos, Naya, or Mono Red kind of going in. There's a bunch of like the clock decks and or Clockmaker, whatever the dude's name is, that makes the midnight clocks going around. They're usually pretty easy to build just because a beat. They kind of don't close the game fast enough, so even though you can 3 damage off Lightning Strike kills it, dies. Oracles don't really do much. Even like some folks have commented, like the Divine Purge doesn't really do much against our deck because we kind of get it reset. You get more blown up by a Meat Hook than Purge because you're going to get your value again. Like even just casting Kumano again isn't a huge deal. You kind of play into that regard. Farewell's probably worse, but Farewell's, if your opponent's casting Farewell against you as a creature deck, you've probably lost anyways. Kind of going from there. So in any case, going to wrap this one up. Hope you have a good luck at the tournament, and we'll catch you next time.